The importance of ordination. I would like to begin my talk today by first asking you all one simple question. Ask yourself, up to the present day, what is it that you most want in life? Alternatively, what is it that you are seeking? I have asked this question many times before, and the answer has always been the same. We are all looking for happiness. All of us here today seek a way to true happiness. When I ask whether anyone has found the happiness we are all searching for, many people reply yes. Nevertheless, upon closer examination, when asked to truly think about their answer, most will hesitate to say that what they have found is true happiness. This is not because the happiness that many of us experience in life is only momentary. It is not true happiness, for true happiness is completely free of suffering. Moreover, although we spend our lives searching for it, we have not yet found our true happiness. Whether we live one lifetime or 10,000 lifetimes without the wisdom of the Lord Buddha, we will never find true happiness. There are some groups of people who believe that worldly pleasures bring true happiness, but this is not so. What, then, is true happiness? The Lord Buddha blessed us with his knowledge of true happiness 2,500 years ago. He defined true happiness into two categories. 1. Happiness that depends on material possessions. Sami suk are things such as material possessions, like money or jewelry, or people such as husbands, wives, and children, that lead one to believe that one has true happiness. This type of happiness is impermanent and will eventually bring suffering into your life. For example, the desire of young people who seek happiness in companionship. Once they find their match, they are happy, but then later on comes the suffering. Suffering in the form of concern, worry, jealousy, pride, pain, disappointment. Sometimes the situation can end in divorce. This pain may one day overwhelm any of that initial joy experienced in the beginning. Number 2, happiness achieved through Dhamma niramisu. This is the only form of true happiness, one that is free from suffering, and the point from which the individual will eventually discover Nibbana or Nirvana. Without the teachings of the Lord Buddha, the search for niramisu, happiness free from worldly possessions, would be a difficult endeavor indeed. Even the Lord Buddha had to endure 6 arduous years of self-mortification before discovering niramisu. During this period, the Buddha came close to death more than once. But when he finally found true happiness, he chose to share with us the wisdom of his experience by showing us the path of Nibbana, beginning with ordination. He who lives outside Dhamma, the lay person, walks on a narrow path clouded from the truth. By embracing Dhamma, one is bathed in the light of truth. He who lives by worldly possessions will find that perfection and purity will remain beyond his reach. Therefore, one must shave one's head, don saffron robes, and ordain into a life free from worldly possessions. Sometimes in life, even when we desire to live according to the precepts, there are times when we must lie. For example, a secretary whose responsibility is to arrange meetings for his or her manager must sometimes lie when the manager does not wish to meet certain individuals. Even in professions held in high esteem, such as teachers, who are responsible for educating children, and doctors who care for the health of the community, all are vulnerable to committing sins. There are many occupations where the nature of the job avoids sin and bad or karma almost impossibly. For example, farmers who must kill insects and livestock, military personnel who must at times kill enemy soldiers, or salespeople who find it difficult to work without exaggerating. The life of a layperson is a narrow one, where even the opportunity strictly to observe the 5 precepts is often compromised. The chance to live a life according to the Dhamma and find inner peace is not easy. Even when the individual knows about the benefits of ordination, it is not so small a task to give up family and worldly possessions for the sake of Dhamma. The individual must have a strong inner desire, love and support from family and close friends, plus the merit accrued from previous lifetimes. The Lord Buddha told the story of his ordination to his disciples as follows. At the time he was young, his hair was dark, and he was full of youthful vitality. His parents did not want him to enter the monkhood, and they despaired at his decision. Eventually, despite their dissuasion, he went ahead and shaved his head, dressed himself in monk's robes, and left his home to live a life free from the worldly possessions. Motives for ordination during the time of Lord Buddha. During the time of Lord Buddha, men were motivated to ordain because of the prevalence of faith in their life for the teachings of Lord Buddha, and in their desire to become an arahant, a person who has rid his mind of all impurities. Some of these arahants accumulated great merit over past lives. One child of only 7 years of age, even after listening only briefly to the teachings of the Lord Buddha, was immediately capable of understanding the existence of suffering in the world, and thus decided to be ordained without hesitation. Even before the monks finished shaving his head, the boy had already become an arahant. This arahant's name was Taphat malabud, one whose birth into this world was fraught with difficulty. When Taphat malabud was in his mother's womb, nearing his time of birth, his mother suddenly died. Many people were under the impression that he also must have perished with his mother. So his relatives took the body of his mother to a place of cremation according to Indian tradition. As the flames of the funeral pyre began to engulf his mother's body, her womb opened and the body of Taphat malabud emerged and came to rest on a tuft of elephant grass. If any other child had come into this world under such dramatic circumstances, it most certainly would not have survived. Nevertheless, Taphat malabud's birth was indeed a miracle. He grew up under the watchful care of his grandmother. Taphat malabud escaped death twice. First, when his mother suddenly passed away. Under normal circumstances, this would have meant death for the unborn child. However, he did not die. Second, when he escaped from his mother's womb as her body lay on top of the funeral pyre and came to rest on a tuft of elephant grass. That is where his name originated. Malabud, meaning the child of the Malab family, and being his family name, and Taphat, meaning wild grass. Later on, the young Taphat malabud ordained as a novice. While a novice, Taphat malabud earned the respect and admiration from the monks of Wat Jetawana. The temple community saw Taphat malabud as a person of great knowledge and talent, such individuals being hard to find in this world. The story of Rattappan. Like many other holy men before ordaining, Rattappan desired worldly possessions. Nevertheless, the mercy, wisdom, and purity of the Buddha's teachings managed to guide Rattappan along towards the path of ordination. Rattappan was the son of a wealthy family in Kururad province, India. Before he was ordained, he lived a sheltered and comfortable life, more so than many of his fellow men. However, Rattappan chose to be ordained. Many in his province and village criticized and gossiped about the news of his decision to be ordained. Even the Raja, who ruled over Kururad, felt that Rattappan's decision to be ordained was indeed strange. When the Raja inquired why a person might ordain, the response he was given was as follows. When confronted with one or all of the following four circumstances, a person usually seeks refuge in the monkhood. 1. Old age, the deterioration of one's physical state and abilities, finding that your life has no more roads to journey on. Number 2. Illness and disease, when one's body and health is afflicted with some illness and you are unable to move forward in the world. Number 3. Poverty, when you reach that point in your life where you no longer have monetary resources to advance your life. Number 4. Shunned by society, when your peers or those in your community no longer accept you. One or all of these circumstances often push people to turn towards a life of refuge in the monastic community. The Raja commented that Rattappan was not yet old. He was still strong and healthy, living a life free from poverty and surrounded by many family and friends who loved and respected him. Why then has he chosen to be ordained? In ancient times, many men chose to be ordained when confronted with four circumstances, although they had no faith in religion. Even during the time of the Lord Buddha, many people were ordained without faith in Buddhism. It is therefore not surprising that the Raja found Rattappan's decision to be ordained a curious thought indeed. Rattappan explained to the Raja that he had his own four reasons for ordination, these having been taught to him by the Lord Buddha. That in one's life there are two types of suffering. Suffering that is unavoidable, past, and suffering that is avoidable, present. All men are bound by unavoidable suffering from previous lives, and yet we still reach out and grasp at more suffering to add on to those from the past. These unavoidable sufferings comprises of 1. That aging is something that cannot be avoided. Those who are wise should be always aware of this. Number 2. All living things are mortal. Death is something no living being can avoid. Number 3. No one ever truly owns anything, for when you die, you cannot take anything with you. Suffering that is avoidable grows out of one's constant desire for more. People with such suffering are those who hunger incessantly and are never satisfied. It is because they are a slave to their never-ending desires. People want everything that they see, and even once they get it, they still yearn for more. The endeavors of the Arahants to preserve Buddhism. Buddhism has managed to grow and prosper to the present day, even though the Buddha passed away over 2,500 years ago. It will continue to advance further ad infinitum. The following is what Lord Buddha taught to Ananda before passing away. Ananda, after I leave this world, my teachings, the Dhamma, will be your teacher in my place. The Buddha blessed us with his teachings and his sense of discipline to carry us forward in his place. The gifts he gave us have passed the test of time and shown themselves to be timeless. Due to the relevance of the Buddha's teachings, despite the passage of time, his disciples have been able to pass on the Dhamma to the present. Even more important, the determination and faith of Lord Buddha's disciples and their desire to spread the Buddhist teachings are truly deserving of our respect for their endeavors, so that we may learn from their life story and set them as an example to follow. One of these monks whom we can learn from is Rohana. The story of Phra Rohana and Phra Nakasen. Rohana was a monk who, after the death of the Lord Buddha, had a revelation. He saw that the child, Nakasen, the recently born son of a Brahmin, would play an important role in the spread of Buddhism in the future. This child possessed unusual intelligence and wisdom. Rohana began seeking alms at Nakasen's house following the child's birth and continued to go every day for 7 years, despite Nakasen's family never having offered any alms. When asked why he had done this, Rohana replied that he did not want or expect anything from the family. He merely wanted the child to become accustomed to seeing a monk. Rohana knew that the child's instincts possessed great curiosity. If the child were to see Rohana often enough, he might begin to ask questions, and that would open the opportunity for Rohana to show him the way of the Buddha's teachings. In the end, Rohana's patience paid off when Nakasen reached 7 years of age. Nakasen had grown up to become a child more gifted and talkative than any others of his age. One day, while Rohana was seeking alms in front of Nakasen's house, the child came to him and asked, "How come your hair and your beard do not look like anyone else's? Why have you shaved off your hair and beard?" Rohana was very happy that this perseverance paid off. He took great care in answering in full detail Nakasen's questions. Due to the child's unusual intelligence, he was satisfied with Rohana's reply. "I wanted to leave these worries and sufferings behind, which are 1. Worrying about choosing the clothes that would go with my look and my hairstyle. 2. Worrying about deciding what accessories to wear with my clothes. 3. Worrying about finding a good jeweler to design and make my jewelry. 4. Wasting time in cleaning those items. 5. Worrying about maintaining those items in good condition. 6. Worrying about washing and cleaning my clothes. 7. Worrying about finding flowers to decorate my hair. 8. Worrying about searching for fragrances to wear. 9. Worrying about finding scents for potpourri. 10. Worrying about finding nut gall. 11. Worrying about finding tamarind. 12. Worrying about finding clay to mix with nut gall and tamarind to make shampoo. 13. Worrying about finding a piece of wood to pin down my hair. 14. Wasting time in curling my hair. 15. Wasting time in combing and styling my hair. 16. Worrying about finding someone to dress my hair. If you too can leave all these worries behind, then you will be aware that there are more important things in life, such as meditation. If you spend your time meditating diligently, you will be pure of mind, able to find true happiness, and accepting of life's suffering. After listening to Rohana, Nakasen was impressed with what Rohana had to say, and thus he desired to learn more about the Buddha's teachings. Nakasen then asked for permission from his parents to be ordained as a novice. After the permission was granted, he was ordained under the supervision of Rohana, continued to practice the teachings of the Buddha, and became an enlightened being in a very short period of time. Having lived a life of purity from the age of 7 and faithfully studying and practicing the teachings of the Buddha, not only did Nakasen rid himself of worldly desire and become an enlightened individual, he also became well-versed in Buddhist knowledge and very adept at giving sermons. Nakasen's sermons were so effective in preaching people that even King Milinda, the great ruler during that time, upon hearing Nakasen, gave up his riches and was ordained to become a holy one himself. King Milinda was lost in his belief that he was smarter than anyone else. He always asked people he came into contact with, such as novices from different faiths and even holy ones, questions about the Dhamma, often to the point of embarrassment. As he asked questions, they were not able to answer. However, after meeting Nakasen, he was able to corner him on any questions. The more he asked questions, the more he felt the wisdom of Nakasen, and in turn, he sought to become Nakasen's disciple. The news of King Milinda's encounter with Nakasen quickly spread throughout the land during that time. The Questions of King Milinda is a book that recorded some of the questions and answers that the two debated. There are numerous stories of those who had enough faith to push them to be ordained since the time of the Buddha. In each and every story, there are many lessons that can be learned. One common theme in all these stories is that you must strive and preserve to do your best in order to be free from suffering in life. Ordination traditions during the time of the Buddha. In the early Buddhist era, all of the Lord Buddha's disciples were monks, without any novices. When young Prince Siddhartha was ordained, his ordination was referred to as lower ordination, banpacha, a term which nowadays is used to refer to novices who were ordained. However, he was already too old to be considered a novice. From the time the Lord Buddha allowed novices to be ordained, the ordination of monks became known as higher ordination, or upasombot. The very first novice ordained during the time of the Lord Buddha was his son, Rahun. He was ordained when Lord Buddha returned to his hometown of Kabinlabat to give a sermon to his parents and relatives. The reason Rahun became a novice was due to his mother's encouragement for him to seek out Buddha and ask him for his inheritance and throne, over which Lord Buddha could still lay claim despite his being a monk. The Lord Buddha felt that his son deserved more than worldly riches, and that his son deserved true happiness, which was worth more than all the world's riches. The Lord Buddha asked Sariput, a disciple, to ordain Rahun as a novice according to the ritual of taking the 3 refuges. Ever since then, taking refuge has remained the standard by which all novices are ordained, even to this day. The process of ordaining novices, according by taking refuge, entails the following. Novices must have their heads and mustache shaved and don saffron robes. After that, they must pay respect to their preceptor in order to seek permission to be ordained as a novice. The preceptor then leads the novice in a chanting ceremony to remind the novice of the triple gems. The novice must then respond with his own chant, taking refuge in the triple gems, as follows. I take refuge in the Lord Buddha. I take refuge in the teaching. I take refuge in the monastic order. For a second time, I take refuge in the Lord Buddha. For a second time, I take refuge in the teachings. For a second time, I take refuge in the monastic order. For a third time, I take refuge in the Lord Buddha. For a third time, I take refuge in the teaching. For a third time, I take refuge in the monastic order. The reason for the 3 repetitions is due to the fact that sometimes we say things without paying careful attention to our own words. The purpose of these repetitions is to ensure that the novice fully understands what he is saying. Following the chanting, for the novice to become fully ordained, he must then take the 10 precepts, which are abstaining from killing, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sexual behavior, abstaining from lying, speech, abstaining from consuming substances which cloud the mind, abstaining from eating meals after midday, abstaining from singing and dancing and other activities that may lead you to temptation, abstaining from immodest dressing and appearance, abstaining from indolent sleeping habits, abstaining from accepting gifts or money for personal gain. Even though the novice's ordination entails only taking refuge, the 10 precepts serve as important guidelines for personal conduct. Should any novice break any of these precepts, especially the first 5, then the novicehood will be taken away from him and he will no longer be entitled to novicehood. The act of ordaining has been in existence since the very beginning of the Buddhist era. Shortly after reaching enlightenment, the Lord Buddha ordained his disciples himself. This act was called EP2, higher ordination, Lord Buddha declared. Become a monk, for the Dhamma is good. We must cleanse ourselves so that we may be free from all worldly suffering. The first monk ordained by the Buddha personally was Gontanya. He was the first of Lord Buddha's disciples and Buddhism's first monk. He was ordained following Lord Buddha's first sermon entitled the Dhammacakkappavattanasu, given in a deer forest known as Isipata. The Buddha's sermon brought upon Gontanya a revelation and allowed him to see the light of the Dhamma, thus allowing him to become a stream enterer or holy one. Later on, Lord Buddha gave permission to monks' ordination using taking refuge, which is based on the same ceremony for novices, the difference being the number of precepts that monks must abide by. In time, this process became known as ordination by chanting of emotion, which is used to this present day. Ordination procedures for novices and bhikkhus. There are two types of ordination. The first is those who are ordained while not yet 20 years of age. The second being the beginning stages of those who take higher ordination. Higher ordination is the act of ordaining monks in Buddhism. This process involves 10 steps. The individual must first be ordained as a novice. The individual must request dependence from the preceptor, paying respects to the preceptor. The preceptor tells him his own name and the novice's in Bali. The preceptor presents the novice with his alms bowl and saffron robes. The preceptor then requests the novice to retire to a point outside the assembly hall. Appointed monks assemble outside the assembly to ask the novice examination questions, dattajivo. Ask the novices to re-enter the assembly hall after the examination. The novice must then request permission to be ordained. The novice must then be asked examination questions again in the assembly hall. Qualifications for those to be ordained. Those who wish to be ordained as a monk must be at least 20 years of age. The persons forbidden from being ordained are: first, those who fall under the following categories. 1. Those who are homosexuals. 2. Those who are hermaphrodites. Second, those who have done wrong against Buddhism. 1. Those who have killed an arahant. 2. Those who have harmed or assaulted nuns. 3. Those who have been falsely ordained before. 4. Those who have been ordained previously but have since changed religions and now wish to be ordained again. 5. Those who have been ordained previously but have broken the 10 precepts and were asked to leave the monkhood. 6. Those who have caused schism in the monastic community. 7. Those who have caused harm to a Buddha. Thirdly, those who have killed their parents or guardians. Those who fall into any of these categories are unworthy of ordination and strictly forbidden from going forth into the monkhood. Those who are not eligible, but not forbidden from being ordained. Although not expressly forbidden from being ordained, those who fall under the following categories are not deemed recommendable. However, if they are already ordained, it does not mean that they must disrobe if they suffer from these handicaps. 1. Those who suffer from the following diseases: leprosy, measles or pox-related illness, fungus of the skin, throat, or lung disease. 2. Those whose limbs are missing. 3. Those who suffer from skeletal deformity. 4. Those who are handicapped, blind, or deaf. 5. Those who suffer from debilitating weakness. Those who have priority restrictions or commitments, such as not having parental or guardian consent, or by reasons of royal decree. 7. Those who have outstanding debts. 8. Those who have been convicted of a crime. 9. Those who are notorious for wrongdoings and misdeeds. Those who are eligible, though may not yet be ready to be ordained, but are eligible and not forbidden from doing so, are as follows. 1. Those who lack a preceptor. 2. Those who do not have an alms bowl. 3. Those who do not have saffron robes. 4. Those who do not have both of the previous items. 5. Those who borrow an alms bowl. 6. those who borrow saffron robes. 7. Those who borrow both of the previous items.